My name is Mia, and I'm going to talk about microfossils in the Indian Monsoon. So, some background. The Indian Monsoon is much like ours here in Tucson, where they have a dry season during the winter months and a wet season during the summer months, where they get a lot of rainfall on the subcontinent. And this rainfall runs off into the Bay of Bengal due to most of these rivers. And this means that compared to the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal is much warmer and much fresher, which has an impact on the environment. So I specifically studied planktic organisms. This one is found in the Bay of Bengal, and this specific species is thought to be sensitive to salinity, which means that we think that it is happier when the water that it lives in is fresher. And the reason we studied plankton was because they're the base of the marine ecosystem. And if anything happens to them, it can cascade and affect all of us. So here we have graphs of average radius, average length and width, and average mass of these organisms from 30,000 to 10,000 years ago. From 30,000 to 20,000 years ago, the Earth was in a glacial period, which means that there were large ice sheets all over the world. From 20,000 to 10,000 years ago, these ice sheets started melting and the world got warmer until it is where the conditions we have today. And it is known that during this glacial period, the Indian monsoon was very weak, which means that the Bay of Bengal had very salty water conditions. And as the world got warmer, the Indian monsoon grew in strength and the Bay of Bengal got fresher waters. This orange curve is an indicator of salinity in the Bay of Bengal. So lower on the graph, we have saltier conditions and weaker monsoons, and higher on the graph, it means we have fresher conditions and stronger monsoons. So remember the plankton that we're studying. We think it likes to live in fresher waters, and so we predicted that we'd have the highest measurements in the interglacial period. However, we didn't. We see these highest averages of the measurements during the glacial period. So we think that other things, such as temperature and nutrients, can affect these planktons' growth. However, we do know that salinity is a factor in their growth. See this blue box? It's called the Heinrich event. During this time, there was massive global climate change thought to be connected to glaciers breaking off from the North American continent and affecting the global climate. So, for the Indian monsoon, it weakened it significantly, which means that the Bay of Bengal had very salty water conditions. And we see this effect on the plankton organisms. There's a drop in radius, width, length, and mass during this time. So we know that this abrupt change in the environment can affect our planktic organisms. And this is important because as we move forward into the future, we're going to have some abrupt changes in our environment due to human causes. And we need to be aware of this so that we can anticipate these changes and make sure that our ecosystem stays healthy.